Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! My wife and I bought our house 3 years ago in what seemed like a perfect neighborhood. We have two kids, ages 7 and 9, and we wanted them to have a safe place to play. The backyard was the main selling point, big enough for a trampoline and even a small above-ground pool. We thought we'd found our forever home. The homeowners association seemed normal at first. Monthly meetings, rules about lawn care, the usual stuff. But then Karen became the president last year, and things started getting weird. She had opinions about everything, the color of our mailbox, how often we watered our grass, even the type of flowers my wife planted. But we tried to keep the peace and follow the rules. Everything changed last Tuesday morning. I was getting ready for work when I heard something that didn't sound right. Instead of my kids' usual laughter, there was shouting and chaos coming from our backyard. I looked out the window and saw something unbelievable. There had to be at least 20 kids running around our yard. Some were jumping on our trampoline, others were splashing in our pool, and a few were just running around making a mess. It looked like a daycare had exploded in our backyard. My wife came running over when she heard me curse under my breath. She asked what was going on out there. I told her I had no idea, but we needed to go find out right now. We rushed outside and looked around for any adults. That's when we spotted Karen standing by our gate with two other women from the neighborhood. They were just chatting like nothing was wrong, while chaos erupted around them. I walked over, trying to keep my cool but feeling my blood pressure rising with every step. I asked her what exactly was going on here. Karen turned to us with this innocent look on her face, like we were the ones being unreasonable. She told us we must be the homeowners and explained that they had decided to have their neighborhood play date in our backyard today. She said it was for the benefit of the community. My wife's jaw dropped. She told Karen that you can't just come into our yard without asking permission first. The woman standing next to Karen just shrugged. She said they thought it would be better than having all these kids at the park making noise and mess there. I told them that this was our private property and we should have a say in who gets to use it. Karen just waved her hand dismissively. She said the homeowners association had voted on it, and majority rules. She told us to just embrace the community spirit. All three women turned their backs on us and went back to their conversation like we didn't exist. That's when I lost it. I yelled at her, asking who gave her permission to invade my property. I told her that nobody comes in here without my say-so and that she had 10 minutes to get everyone out, or I was calling the police. Karen's face changed completely. She started yelling at me, calling me heartless and selfish. She went on and on about how I didn't understand community values. I didn't stick around to listen. I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. Within minutes, 2 police cars showed up. I explained the situation to the officers, and they immediately started telling everyone to leave. When the officer asked if I wanted to press charges, I didn't hesitate. I told him yes, absolutely. I explained that Karen had trespassed on my property and I wanted her charged. I turned to Karen before she left. I warned her that next time she broke into my property, I'd let my dog loose. I told her he'd be watching this yard from now on. Karen was furious. She was shocked that someone had the nerve to stand up to her as the head of the homeowners association. But it was clear she had crossed the line this time, and I wasn't going to let her get away with it. A few days after the confrontation with Karen, I woke up with a strange feeling that something wasn't right. I looked out my bedroom window and saw my dog eating a large piece of meat in the yard. That was weird because I hadn't given him anything. Panic started setting in, so I ran outside. By the time I got there, my dog had already finished eating the strange meat. I thought it was odd, but decided to let it go. My relief didn't last long though. About 20 minutes later, I found my poor dog throwing up violently. My wife and I rushed him to the emergency vet. The vet worked quickly to help our furry family member, but it was obvious something was seriously wrong. After 45 tense minutes, the vet came out of the examination room. The vet asked if my dog had eaten anything unusual today. He said he believed the dog may have been poisoned. I told the vet about seeing him eat the large piece of meat that morning, but that I hadn't given it to him. The vet explained that you don't typically find large pieces of meat just lying around. He said someone may have deliberately tried to poison my dog. He asked if I had any idea who might do something like this. I felt anger and confusion at the same time. The pieces of this terrifying puzzle were starting to come together, and it looked like Karen had done something terrible out of spite and entitlement. After several scary hours at the vet, my dog was finally stable and recovering. It was good to have him back home, but the feelings of rage and betrayal wouldn't go away. I knew I had to get to the bottom of this. I checked what my security cameras had captured. It was crystal clear. Karen wearing a hat and sunglasses, sneaking around my fence. She threw a large piece of meat near my dog and quickly drove away in her car. I made a copy of the video and went straight to the police station. I filed a report that Karen had attempted to poison my dog. The veterinary bills proved that my dog had been poisoned around the same time as the incident on camera. The police didn't waste any time. They went to confront Karen, and when she refused to cooperate and go peacefully, they didn't hesitate. In front of the whole neighborhood, they handcuffed her and led her away in shame. Karen was charged with serious crimes including animal cruelty and attempted poisoning of an animal. The court didn't take kindly to her actions. She received 1 year in county jail and a hefty $20,000 fine for her crimes. My wife has this amazing talent for crocheting. She's been doing it since she was a teenager, and over the years, she's gotten really good at it. When her second oldest brother got married 3 years ago, she made this gorgeous shawl for his bride to wear during the evening reception. The bride absolutely loved it, and since then it became this family tradition where my wife would make a shawl for every family member who got married. The thing is, my wife doesn't have the best relationship with her older brother. Let's call him George, since that's not his real name. When they were kids, George was pretty awful to her. He'd constantly put her down, exclude her from things, and just generally made her childhood miserable. Now that they're adults, my wife tries to be polite when she has to see him at family events, but she keeps her distance. She doesn't want to cut ties with the rest of her family just because of one bad apple. Here's where it gets complicated. I work at the same company as George. We're not friends or anything, but we get along fine at work. When George got transferred to my team about 6 months ago, I actually considered asking for a transfer myself. Our team has these gatherings with significant others, and I didn't want to put my wife in uncomfortable situations where she'd have to interact with George more than necessary. So when George announced he was getting married again, my wife's mom asked her to make a show for his fiancé. My wife wasn't thrilled about it, but she agreed because she didn't want to cause family drama. We figured out a plan where I'd take the finished show to work and give it to George directly, so my wife wouldn't have to see him at all. My wife spent weeks working on this shawl. I'd come home from work and find her sitting on the couch, carefully working on the intricate patterns. She put so much time and effort into making it perfect, even though she didn't really want to do it in the first place. Earlier this week, she finally finished it. The shawl was beautiful, with all these delicate stitches in a cream color with subtle gold threads woven through. I emailed George at work to let him know I'd bring it in the next day since the wedding was on Saturday. Thursday morning, I walked over to George's desk and handed him the shawl. I told him it was from my wife for his fiancé and mentioned that we were looking forward to the wedding. George seemed genuinely happy about the shawl and thanked me for bringing it. Everything seemed normal, and I went back to my desk. But then lunchtime came around and my phone rang. It was my wife, and she sounded really upset. She told me something unbelievable had just happened. George's fiancé had called her to say she was no longer invited to the wedding. When my wife asked why, the fiancé claimed the wedding venue and reception place were too small for the number of guests, so they had to make cutbacks. But here's the thing, I was still invited to the wedding. I felt my blood start to boil. The wedding was literally the next day, and they were uninviting my wife after she'd spent weeks making a beautiful handmade gift for the bride. I told my wife that was ridiculous because if the venue was too small, they would have known that weeks ago when they sent out invitations. My wife agreed and said it felt like they only invited her to get the shawl. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. My wife is one of the kindest people I know. She would have made the shawl even if they just asked her nicely without the wedding invitation. She loves crocheting and giving handmade gifts to people, but the way they handled this felt manipulative and cruel. When I got back to work after lunch, I was still fuming. I walked past George's desk and saw that he wasn't there, but the shawl was sitting right on his desk in its gift bag. Something inside me just snapped. I grabbed the shawl and put it in my work bag, then left a note on George's desk saying that since my wife was no longer invited to the wedding, neither the shawl nor I would be attending, and thanks for letting us know where we stood in the family. On my drive home, I called my wife and told her what I'd done. I suggested we use the Saturday night to go out together instead, since we rarely get time without a babysitter. But my wife didn't react the way I expected. She was upset that I'd taken the shawl back, especially when her family group chat started blowing up. Apparently, George had told everyone what happened, and now family members were calling my wife petty for taking back the shawl. My wife told me she wished I hadn't done that because now everyone thought she was being vindictive. I reminded her that she didn't do anything and that I was the one who took the shawl back, but she said they didn't see it that way and thought she had put me up to it. She asked me to return the shawl the next morning. I asked if she was serious after how they had treated her. My wife said it was causing too much drama in the family and she just wanted it to be over. That's when I realized my wife has been putting up with this kind of treatment from her family for years. She's so used to being the peacekeeper that she'd rather give in than stand up for herself, even when she's clearly being used. I ended up messaging the family group chat myself, explaining that I was the one who took the shawl back, and if anyone should be angry, it should be at me. I also said I'd do it again because nobody should treat my wife poorly and expect to benefit from her kindness. The responses were mixed. Some family members said I was right to stand up for my wife. Others said I was causing unnecessary drama and should have just let it go. But here's what really got me fired up. George's fiancée had the nerve to call my wife again. She told my wife she was shocked that I had taken back the shawl and complained that they were getting married the next day and now she didn't have anything special to wear. My wife apologized and suggested there might still be time to find something at a store. The fiancé said it wouldn't be the same and that she was really looking forward to wearing something handmade. I grabbed the phone from my wife and told the fiancé that if she was really looking forward to it, maybe she shouldn't have uninvited the person who made it for her. She said the venue size wasn't their fault, so I asked her why I was still invited and whether I magically took up less space than my wife. She hung up on me. The wedding happened yesterday. I didn't go, obviously. Instead, my wife and I had a nice dinner at a restaurant we'd been wanting to try. She seemed to enjoy herself, but I could tell she was still stressed about the family situation. This morning, George cornered me at work. He said what I did was really immature. I told him what was immature was using my wife to get a free handmade gift and then kicking her to the curb. George claimed they had to make difficult decisions about the guest list, so I asked him about those difficult decisions that somehow didn't affect me. I told him that if he needed the shawl, he could have just asked for it without the fake wedding invitation. George insisted it wasn't fake and that they really did want her there initially. I asked him when that changed, before or after the show was finished. He didn't have an answer for that. The family drama is still ongoing. Some relatives are taking our side, saying George and his new wife were wrong to uninvite my wife at the last minute. Others are saying I overreacted and should have just let it slide for the sake of family peace. My wife is still getting pressure to apologize and somehow make things right. She's considering reaching out to George's wife to smooth things over, which honestly makes me even more frustrated. But here's the thing that really bothers me. My wife spent weeks of her free time creating something beautiful for people who clearly don't respect her. She put love and care into every stitch, and they treated her like she was disposable. The shawl represented hours of her life that she'll never get back, and they acted like she should be grateful just to contribute her labor to their special day. I know some people think I should have talked to my wife before taking the shawl back, and maybe they're right about that. But in that moment, seeing how hurt she was and knowing she'd probably just accept the treatment and move on, I felt like someone needed to stand up for her. I'm the tech support guy in my circle of friends. When someone's computer breaks or they need help setting up their internet, I'm the first person they call. It's been like that since high school, and I don't really mind. I enjoy fixing things and helping people out. My best friend since college was this guy who was even more into computers than me. He worked in IT for a big company and knew everything about networks, security systems, and all that technical stuff. He was married to this woman who seemed nice enough when we all hung out together. They had kids and seemed like a normal, happy family. Things started getting weird about 2 years ago. My friend told me that his wife had been acting strange. One of her close friends got caught cheating on her husband, and when the whole thing blew up, the friend tried to drag his wife into it too. She claimed that his wife was also having an affair, but there was no proof. The drama died down after a few weeks, but it left my friend feeling paranoid and suspicious. For months, everything seemed to go back to normal. His wife was friendly when I saw her at barbecues and birthday parties. She'd ask about my work and chat about everyday stuff. I figured the whole cheating accusation thing had just been her friend trying to deflect blame from herself. Then his wife went to her high school reunion. After that weekend, my friend started noticing changes in her behavior. She was secretive with her phone, staying up late on the computer, and being generally distant. He started calling me more often, wanting to talk through his concerns. He told me he thought something was going on with her. She was acting just like she did right after that whole mess with her friend. I suggested that maybe she was just stressed about work or something, and that reunions can make people nostalgic and weird. But he insisted this was different. She was hiding things from him. The night before, he had walked into the room and she slammed the laptop shut like she was looking at something she shouldn't be. During one of our conversations, he made a joke about installing a keylogger on their home computer. A keylogger is basically software that records everything someone types and can even capture screenshots. At first, I thought he was just venting, but the way he said it made me think he might actually be considering it. He told me he was probably being paranoid, but he wanted to know for sure what she was doing online. I warned him that installing spy software was a pretty serious invasion of privacy and asked if he was sure he wanted to go down that road. He said he needed to know because he couldn't keep living like this, wondering if his wife was lying to him. He asked me not to tell anyone about our conversations, especially my own wife. I promised I wouldn't say anything, figuring he just needed someone to talk to while he worked through his marriage problems. Several months passed without him bringing it up again. I assumed they had worked things out or that his suspicions had been unfounded. Then one morning around 5:30 to 6 o'clock while I was getting ready for work, my phone buzzed with a Facebook message notification. The message was from my friend, but it was sent to a huge group chat that included basically everyone we knew. His family, her family, all our mutual friends, and even people I didn't recognize. My first thought was that his account had been hacked or that this was some kind of spam. Then I got an email from him with the same content, a link to a website along with a message saying that we all needed to see what kind of person she really was. The email was sent to an even bigger list that included his wife's co-workers and extended family members. I was hesitant to click the link because it seemed like it could be malicious software or a virus. But coming from him, someone who was extremely careful about computer security, I figured it had to be legitimate. When I finally opened it, what I found was beyond belief. He had created an entire website documenting his wife's affair. There were screenshots of Facebook messages between her and some guy from her high school reunion. There were photos and videos that were clearly intimate in nature. Everything was organized chronologically with his sarcastic commentary added to each piece of evidence. The chat logs showed her talking about how much she enjoyed spending time with this other guy and making plans to meet up with him. There were videos of her alone in their bedroom doing things I definitely shouldn't have been seeing. Most painful of all were the messages where she talked badly about her husband, comparing him unfavorably to her new boyfriend and making cruel comments about their marriage. I immediately called him. He picked up on the first ring, and I could tell he had been drinking heavily. I asked him what the hell he was doing, and told him he needed to take the website down right now. He asked why he should, saying that everyone deserved to know what kind of person she was because she had been lying to all of us. I warned him that this was going to destroy his kids and asked him to think about what he was doing. He replied that she should have thought about the kids before she decided to cheat on him with some loser from high school. He was slurring his words and sounded like he hadn't slept. He told me he had been up all night putting the website together and sending out the links. I could hear him getting more and more angry when he talked about women in general, making bitter comments about how they were all liars and cheaters. I spent 20 minutes trying to convince him to take the site down before it caused permanent damage to everyone involved. Finally, he agreed to remove it, but I could hear his wife in the background starting to yell at him. She was screaming about what he had done, saying her boss had just called her asking about some website. He yelled back that maybe she should have thought about that before she decided to sleep with someone else. The phone call ended abruptly with both of them screaming at each other. I tried calling back several times, but no one answered. Later that day, I found out just how thorough my friend had been in his investigation. The keylogger had been recording everything on their home computer for months. He had identified her affair partner and somehow tracked down his family, his wife, his co-workers, and basically everyone in his life. All of those people had received the same Facebook message and email that I did. The website stayed up for the rest of the day. He had even added a visitor counter so he could see how many people were looking at the evidence of his wife's betrayal. By evening, it showed over 500 views. I never found out what happened to the other guy in his marriage, but I know what happened to my friend and his wife. She tried everything she could think of to make things right. She offered to go to counseling, to cut off contact with everyone from high school, to give him complete access to all her accounts and devices. My friend seriously considered taking her back. Even after having all our friends and family see proof of her affair, he was willing to try to rebuild their marriage. But he couldn't get past the things she had said about him in those messages. The comments about his appearance, his personality, and their intimate life were too hurtful for him to forgive. In the end, he filed for divorce. The whole experience changed him completely. He gained a lot of weight and became increasingly bitter and isolated. Eventually, he moved across the country and cut off contact with most of his old friends, including me. His wife's life fell apart too. She lost her job after her co-workers saw the website. Her relationship with her family became strained. Her appearance changed dramatically, and she developed a reputation in our community that followed her for years. The worst part was watching how it affected their children. They were old enough to understand that something terrible had happened to their family, but too young to fully comprehend the adult complexities involved. They ended up shuttling between parents who could barely be in the same room together. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.